Hi guys, we are almost finishing up with our discussion on trigonometry. In this video, I am quickly going to take you through the negative angles and the special angles. You'll understand why these angles are special as we go through this discussion together. When we discussed the cast rule, all students take care, if you remember that, we established that we measure positive angles anti-clockwise and negative angles clockwise. Actually, this was our discussion in the very first video when we were doing some orientation. Now, we established that, of course, positive angles is what we deal with mainly. It's not a problem. We now want to establish what's going to happen if I take a sine of a negative angle theta. So let's suppose my negative theta is somewhere here. The question that you should actually ask yourself is, what is the ratio here? Remember, sine of a negative theta is a ratio. So the question is the ratio positive or negative? And the answer is negative because by now we know that sine is negative here, only cos and its reciprocal are positive. The next thing is, what about cos of negative theta? The question again is the same. What actually is the ratio here? Is it positive or negative? It is positive. Hence, we have cos of theta. What about tan of minus theta? Well, what is the case? What is happening here? Well, we know that tan is negative, so it must be negative tan theta. That is basically what you need to know for now. Of course, things need to be really thought of as we get further on. If my theta is to be here, you must also now interrogate and ask yourself, okay, what's going to be the size of the angle here? So those are the kind of things that you need to start really thinking seriously about in terms of negative angles. Right, let us move on now and discuss the next section, which is the special angles. Special angles come from three special triangles, and I will actually draw the two triangles here, and then the other, actually I'm not going to draw the other triangle because I have drawn the unit circle, so we will use the unit circle to figure out the other special angles. So let me draw my last special triangle here. Okay, and this one is, I like saying a very special triangle because now these two sides are equal. Very important, these triangles are right angled triangles. I'm going to have a 60 here. I'm going to put up a 30 there, and this should be a 45. That should also be a 45. The reason I'm taking you through this is because they really help you in terms of speed when you actually have to solve trigonometric expressions. And you will see why in an example that I will do well, as soon as I'm done explaining this to you. So quick one, let us start here. We want to figure out sine 30. Okay. Now, I have obviously not put in the sides. I will just come to that later on. Oh, that line is terrible. Yeah, at least I tried. Cool. Now, the biggest angle between these two triangles is 90 degrees. So I'm going to give that the square root of 4, which is 2. So I'm going to do the same thing here. The next biggest angle is 60. I'm going to give that the square root of 3. The next is 45. Guess what? I should give that the square root of 2. The same thing here. And the next is 30. I must give that the square root of 1, which is equal to 1. Now, Soccer is your forever song that you guys sing. So I'm not going to waste time. I'm really going to go through this quickly. Sine 30, opposite is 1, hypotenuse is 2, cos 30, opposite is what? Here, sorry, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, so adjacent is square root of 3, hypotenuse is 2, and then coming to tan 30, opposite over adjacent. Moving on, we want to figure out sine 45. We come to this triangle here. Doesn't matter where you stand really, but it should all stand out that the opposite square root 2 and hypotenuse is 2. The same thing will happen for cos 45, left square root 2 over 2. And for tan 45, we have something very beautiful there. It is square root of 2 over square root of 2, which is 1. Sine 60, again, this is your task. You are now going to make sense of this, but by now, everything should just be simple and straightforward. That is square root of 3. Now, we need to figure out other special triangles, and we're going to use the unit circle. In the unit circle, I had established that the radius is 1, and remember the radius is hypotenuse. So I'm going to write the h is equal to 1. Now, here's my 0 degrees, and there's my 90 degrees. So if I want sine 0, I should actually write here. Sine 0 is opposite over hypotenuse. What is the opposite usually? Opposite is the y value, and the hypotenuse is the x. So this is actually y value is 0, as you can see from this coordinate. Remember the coordinate is in the form x, y. So x, y. So here y is 0, hypotenuse remains 1, and you can even use Pythagoras to figure out the hypotenuse in case you are still confused. So that's 0. And cos 0 is adjacent. Adjacent is 1, hypotenuse is 1, so that's 1. Tan 0, let's see, is opposite over adjacent. What is opposite? Opposite is a y value, which is 0, and then the adjacent is the x value, which is 1, and that's 0. And then lastly, what is sine 90? Sine 90, we are now here, okay, at the top here. We can see x is 0 and y is 1. So opposite is y, which is 1. Hypotenuse remains 1, so sine 90 is 1. Cos 90, on the other hand, adjacent is 0, that is the x value, hypotenuse is 1, so this is 1. And interestingly, tan 90, the opposite is y, which is 1, the adjacent is x, which is 0, and so this is undefined. So we can't figure that out. And that's about it. These are the angles that you need to know. And so why special angles? Well, suppose I ask you to find for me the value of sine 30 plus cos 60. Well, if you are going to press your calculator, you're going to be late. Of course, it will help you, but I will know quickly that actually the value of that is 1. What about sine 60 divided by tan 30? Well, sine 60, I know, square root of 3 over 2 divided by tan 30, 1 over square root 3, and then I just simplify, okay? And this is just 3 over 2. So that's why we use special angles. Your NBT, which you write for university entry, they will require you to have some knowledge of special angles. That's about it, fellas. The next section is the last one, trigonometric functions. In other words, graphs of these trigonometric functions. And for that, we will have to go back to that animation where we had the graph and the unit circle. I hope you have enjoyed and there's no confusion. you are now clear. Cheers.